My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
This episode is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Turn your ideas into reality with an Azure free account. Get everything you need to develop apps across cloud and hybrid environments, scale workloads, create cloud-connected mobile experiences, and so much more. Discover what you can create with popular services free for 12 months. Learn more at azure.com. That's AZURE.com. And sign up for a free account to start building in the cloud today.
Welcome to Storylines Live, the podcast where we explore the meaning and the power of the most important story in business, the one that answers why someone should buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. This is the story that defines the very character and nature of an organization. At WordWrite, we call it your capital S story. In each episode, we feature guests who have great insights on business storytelling, who can share their experiences and key learnings to help you and your business do a better job of sharing your capital S story to deliver remarkable business results. Today, we're honored to have Ken Hardison as our guest. Ken runs a very interesting organization called the Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association. Ken is an attorney who built not one, but two multi-million-dollar law firms before selling them at the age of 52. He then created the, I guess you pronounce it PILMA.
That's correct.
Ken then created PILMA to share his attorney trade secrets to build a profitable and successful law practice. That has grown into a multi-million-dollar organization with members from across the United States, Canada, and Australia. Ken's work is rooted in a deep felt commitment to help lawyers avoid the mistakes and the pitfalls that he himself encountered while building his own firms. Ken, welcome to Storylines Live.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Anything that I missed in your introduction that you'd like to share?
No, that's got it. That's very concise, very, very true.
Great. I appreciate that, my friend. You know, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on as a guest is because you are also a podcaster, and you were kind enough to have me on your show not too long ago. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Okay. My podcast is Grow Your Law Firm. And basically, we just interview people that I think can help a lawyer grow their law practice. You know, it might be market, it might be management. And we try to be a little bit different. I try to be cutting edge, think outside the box a little bit, because that's always been one of my traits in any business I get in. I always try to be the leading edge and kind of, not go where everybody else goes.
That's great. And folks, we will share with you in the show notes links to Ken's organization and lots of other good stuff. So be on the lookout for that. Ken, when we have guests on, we always ask them about their capital S story. And we want to know which of the 4 questions that I shared a few minutes ago, why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you, are most important to you at PILMA.
Yeah, I think, I got a bunch of stories, and I like telling stories because I really believe that stories, you can teach people all day long, but when you tell them a story, whether you're religious or not. I mean, the Bible and the parables and stuff like that, that's what people remember, right?
I agree.
That's what people remember. When I'm speaking at events, I try to weave stories into it, because if I don't, they start fading away from me. And you ask them at the end of it, what do they remember? And they'll remember whatever I was talking about with the story. The story reinforces what you're trying to get across. So I guess my biggest story, why somebody would want to go work with me, is that when I practiced law for years and I made a good living, and then I was in a small town of like 10,000 people. And I went to court, and lawyers, and then TV advertisers started going, and they were on TV, and we saw that our PI cases were going down. And all the lawyers at all the meetings and all the things would complain. And I said, well, y'all can complain, but I'm going to do something about it. So I had two partners. I went to them. I said, we've got to change we got to change with the times. And they just said, we're not going to advertise. It's unethical. It's unprofessional. And we had dialogue for about 6 months, and I left. I took one associate and 2 staff or 3 staff. And I went out and took everything I owned and put it on the line for a line of credit. And I started advertising. And I didn't have anybody to guide me. I made so many mistakes. I wasted so much money. But I did do this. I turned it in like 6 years. I had 13 lawyers and 47 staff. And we went from doing $500,000 to like 8 million. So, but I could have made a lot more. I mean, I wasted so much money. So I guess the deal is I think that shows number one thing, like for people that want to hire me or be in my organization. Mm-hmm. I've been there, I've done that, I've made the mistakes, and the easiest way you can learn by your own failures. I call them learning experiences.
Yes.
I don't like to use the word failure, because you just found out a way not to do it. I've always the cup is always half full in my mm-hmm. house, not half empty. So I'm always very optimistic about stuff. But you make mistakes, but you got to learn from them, not make them twice. And so it's like I tell people, I made about every mistake a human could make building that law practice, and still did it in spite of all that. So that means I got a lot of perseverance and grit. I never said I had the sharpest pencil in the room. I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the room, but I got the grit. If I got something in the way, I'm trying to figure out. I know I can't go through it, so I try to figure out how to go over it, under it, around it. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the big deal. It's like I often tell this. I don't even know if it's a story. You tell me what it is. Mm-hmm. If I was going to go climb Mount Everest, would I want somebody to guide me, a Sherpa that had been there, done it before, or would I want to take somebody that was a rookie or somebody like me and go up there that hadn't have a proven track record, not when my life depended on it? So that's the analogy. I guess you call it an analogy. It's an analogy that
and in our work too, Ken, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. In our work, we focus on aligning archetypal stories. So you mentioned the Bible earlier, David and Goliath. If you got a new client at a firm and you said it was a David and Goliath story, you don't have to be a biblical scholar to know that that's the underdog, right? In PI cases, that happens a lot, right? Well,
absolutely.
What you just did in describing your role, that's an archetype that we've defined as the guide, or maybe the sage, right? You stepped on all the landmines before. So in your organization, what you are doing is helping your clients, the attorneys you work with, miss those landmines. They don't have to step on them because you did, right?
That's correct.
And like you said, you don't want somebody who's on the journey for the first time to lead you down the path of what could be very expensive in terms of promoting your firm, right? Or promoting your capabilities.
Yeah.
Attorney. Yeah. That's really great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. How does your story inform the work that you do today, your personal story? Is there something about what you're doing every day at PILMA that you say to yourself, I get up out of bed in the morning every day because I don't want this or that to happen, or I want to achieve some level of success for your clients.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my deal is, I always, people say, when you ever going to retire? And I said, when I get up, and I don't look forward to getting up and helping people or lawyers or whatever. Because in my own way, I think that I'm helping these lawyers because of helping them help more people because they get more clients. But it gives me my self-worth. And it's really, when I was doing it, it's not a big secret. Everybody knows. Your competition, your guys that are killing you in your market, they're not going to tell you what they're doing.
Yes.
They're not. You say, "Does this work?" They're not going to. I used to hear this all. No, not really, but it is. But and I had nobody there. I had to learn by trial and error. So if I can save them that money and shortcut it, I've often told people, you'll get there. Because they'll say, "Why should I hire you?" I say, "You'll figure it out on your own. It'll just take you twice as long and cost you twice as much money." I said, "But you'll get there because I know that they've got what it takes. I mean, they're smart, whatever." Mm-hmm. I said, well, all I do is shorten the ride, get you there quicker. You know what I'm saying? Now, some people, that's not truthful, but a lot of the lawyers, lawyers are pretty smart people anyway. But what I do is I shortcut it for them, and I just didn't have nobody do that for me. And if I'd had somebody like me when I did it, it would have took me 5 or 6 years. I did it in 3 years. I can promise you, because I didn't know exactly what to do, and I wasn't wasting money, and I'd put my money in the right places and had my systems in place and all this stuff. It's like I tell lawyers now. I had a lawyer hire me to go up to Baltimore, Maryland. Got a big settlement, had like $2 million fee, and he was kind of small, but he really wanted to do something with his money. And his problem was he had no infrastructure. And I said, I'm not going to give you the secrets to marketing until you get your infrastructure straightened out. And he said, why? I said, because you'll end up getting disbarred, or you end up losing, you'll waste your money because you can't service the clients because
right.
You got that kind of money. And he was upset with me, and we had a falling out. And I went home. I said, I'll give him a refund. And about 2 months later, he called me. He said, I want you to come back up. I said, well, I'm just telling you. I said, you're going to blame me if I just tell you the secrets to marketing, because that was one of my big deals. I had to pretty much cut off all my marketing after 9 days because we had so much business. We went from signing up 20 cases to 120 cases in like 60 days.
Wow.
And we couldn't handle it. Everybody was complaining. They were coming get their files. We had to go. I went out and hired somebody that was systems and processes, procedures. We had to get things set up. We just didn't have it. We didn't even have a case management system. I mean, we had to get ready to take the volume. That's the worst thing you can do. You know what I'm saying? Is try to go out there and not be set up to handle the business. That's worse than not getting the business, I think. It gives you bad reviews, all kind. So I didn't have reviews back then. If I had reviews now, I'd probably got 200 ones.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was bad. But I learned from it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is true for PI practice as much as it is for any company. We all know that a company can fail if it doesn't have enough business. But to your point, if you've got too much business, that weight can kill you. You can't take a small car and pull a big load and expect that car to survive. There's just not enough horsepower.
That's right.
That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Ken, you work primarily with personal injury practices. Could you talk for a minute about the role of storytelling generally in PI cases, its role, its importance?
Yeah, I think it's the big deal because you're telling your client's story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell it to the adjuster when you're trying to settle it. You can tell it to the arbitrator if you're arbitrating it. But it really comes in with juries because, like I said, people remember stories, right? And if you can paint that, it's all about how you stage it, how you frame it. That's the word I'm using. Frame everything. And telling your story, you get to frame it in such a way that, you're telling this, I've actually, you watch some of these movies, I think some of the John Grisham movies where the guy sit there telling the story at the end, I've seen this guy say, close your eyes and this, that.
Yes.
That's very effective in
Mhm.
in closing arguments, in opening arguments. You're telling stories. But that's what it is. I mean, that's what we do as lawyers is we tell our client's story because they want to be heard.
Yes.
I've had clients that really didn't care about the money. I had a nursing home case one time. They really didn't care about the money. They wanted these people, they wanted the story of their mother told, and they wanted changes
Mhm.
at facility. The money, they gave the money to a charity, okay?
Wow.
It was never about the money for them. They wanted change, and they wanted this story told, and we did it.
Mhm.
And they made changes. They never would settle the money. Like I kept telling the people, you don't understand. This is not about money. These people want change. They want you to admit you did wrong. They don't want a settlement that says we're not admitting anything, but we're going to pay you this money. They just want you to. They'll take whatever. But the deal is they want you to admit you did wrong and change your processes and procedures from now on out so that this don't happen to somebody else's family. So that was a different story, right? That was
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's always fascinated me about this aspect of the law, right? Because certainly there are plenty of litigators out there who are dealing with, air quotes, important cases, but it takes 25 minutes to explain the corporate litigation they're doing, right? But when you have a personal injury practice, you are quite literally dealing a lot of times with people's lives.
absolutely.
The fate of people who've been injured, families.
And their families.
Yeah.
It's not just them, it's their families. I tell people, this is one shot. It's not just about you. You're not able to work anymore. What do you go? You got to provide for your family? I mean, really, because listen, nobody else is, right?
That's right. That is absolutely right.
Yeah.
Folks, we're going to take a quick break here and we'll be right back and chat more with Ken Hardison of PILMA about the work that he does in helping attorneys, primarily personal injury attorneys, do a better job of marketing their practices.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe.
Hi, folks. We're back with Ken Hardison of PILMA to talk about how Ken and his organization help attorneys, primarily personal injury attorneys and practices, to better market what they do. Ken, how do you help these practices and these attorneys specifically? Maybe one way of asking it is, when you start working with somebody, what are the first things you're looking for as potential improvements?
The number one is intake.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen a law firm, even my old law firm, even when I was doing it, there was always room for improvement. It's like, I tell people, it's like playing golf. You will never master it. You will think you got it one day, and then all of a sudden, I see so many lawyers worry about trying to get more calls when really they need to more concentrate on converting the calls that they get. And so we do a lot of things like PILMA. We have an intake training class every month. But then it's also trying to help them get their message right, because like you said, I mean, you're having to compete with so many people out there, your competition. And I always say, you got to answer these two questions when anybody calls you or any leads you get.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need a lawyer? And if I do need a lawyer, why should I choose you over everybody else out there?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the answer to that question and use that as your I call it your USP, unique selling proposition. Some people call it differentiator. If you don't have that, then you're wasting a lot of money, because you need to get that right before you start spending money. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why I feel a lot of lawyers just want to go throw money up against the wall and figure it out, but they really don't have a strategic plan about what their message is going to be, who their ideal client is. and how they're going to reach them. Where are these ideal clients? What do they watch? Where do they go? And then also think about this. Where do these people go immediately before, immediately after they get into an accident? And so for most of them, accident, it's going to be hard. But after, they go to doctors, they go to the hospitals, people that are disabled, they go to
rehab,
pain clinics or rheumatologists, workers' comp. They go to the labor union, the steward, these, if you're doing dog bite cases, you need to go to the dog catcher and see, and make a relationship with them. So you need to figure out who your ideal client, where to go, what your message is, and then figure out what is it their big pain points. What keeps them up at night. And you want to enter, one of my big mentors, Dan Kennedy, told me, he says, you want to enter a conversation that's on their mind. And that's really what the pain points are. Like for people who've been in the car wrecks, their big pain point is, the insurance company's not hearing them. They're not helping them. They don't know what to do about their car, getting it fixed. They don't know, they don't know how they're going to get their medical bills paid. They don't know who to trust, things like that. And so you have to have the answer for those questions. And that's where marketing comes in. I'm big on educational-based marketing. There's a guy wrote a book about the 30 triggers that make people buy. I can't remember his name right now. I think it's Joe Sugarman. But what I see with PI lawyers, there's a lot of them, the two biggest things is speed and greed. People are wanting money and they want it fast. So you see a lot of commercials like that. I didn't go that route. And I know it works, and I'm not saying anything bad about it. I knew my ideal client. I didn't want somebody that was greedy, because greedy people are hard to please. just to be honest with you. And their expectations are sometimes unfulfillable.
Yes.
And so what I did, I went with educational base. And so my big deal is the more you tell, the more you sell without selling. So I try to tell them, here's the 7, minefields you got to watch out for when you got a wreck case, or here's how to double your chance of winning your Social Security claim if you do this, this, and this. Lawyers used to say, Ken, you give them so much information that they're not going to hire you. Well, no, I disagree. I think you give them so much information, they get overwhelmed. They say, well, can you help me with this? I mean, I had one deal I did. I said, here's 52 things that insurance adjusters look at when they're evaluating your claim. They put a value on it. Well, you think somebody's going to try to do a settlement, look at those 52 things and figure it out? No. So I think it works just the opposite.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really great point, because, a lot of that education is conveyed by sharing your story, right? You got to share a story. If everybody is sharing the same story about, as you put it, speed and greed, then everybody's saying the same thing. And how am I going to tell one lawyer apart from another? Who's going to be better, right?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that you said that was really interesting that I want to pull out is developing relationships with people who can recommend you. And those people need to know your story too, whether it's doctors, right? You mentioned folks in pain centers or rehab facilities. Because as you said, when people are really hurt, although maybe pop culture sees it differently, they really don't think the first thing is, oh, I need a lawyer. They think, I'm hurt, I'm going to go see the doctor, I need this or I need that. And when they're ready to say, well, maybe I ought to talk to somebody about whether I need a lawyer, you need to be known by those people. And they need to be able to say, well, if you're thinking about that, Mr. So-and-so, then maybe you want to talk to Ken or whoever the right firm is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ken, personal injury attorneys were among the first to take advantage of the changes in legal marketing that enable them to do television commercials, et cetera, et cetera. We're in the 21st century now. You're an expert in this area. What are you seeing are the emerging trends in terms of how attorneys need to be marketing themselves?
Yeah, I think TV is not as effective as it used to be. I think there's so many TV stations out there. There's so much saturation. So many lawyers are doing it that you still get cases, but the cost per case, where when I was doing it was like $500-600. Now it's like $3,000. It's like 6 times what it was 20 years ago. But the average fee has not gone up that much. A little bit, but not as much as, it's sort of like your paycheck and the inflation. It's not congruent. It's not parallel. And so you're seeing that. But I think the great equalizer, there's 2 great equalizers. Number one, when the internet came, that really leveled the playing field for a lot of lawyers that didn't have a lot of money to go in TV and compete with the big boys. I call them 800-pound gorillas.
Yeah.
The second thing that has happened, and it's going to really be even a bigger game changer than the internet, is this artificial intelligence for marketing. I mean, it's really good for the management too, but marketing is, think about it now. Now a lawyer, because content and backlinks are king for SEO, search engine optimization.
Yeah.
Now a solo practitioner that could never afford to hire, pay $15,000-$25,000 a month for content writers and SEO and backlinks. Now they can get on ChatGPT with some high school kid and create voluminous amounts of content, and within 3 months have as much content as the number one lawyer in your market. Right. So that's a big deal, right? So, and we're just brushing, that's just the tip of the iceberg. But content's one way. The fact that now you can do videos, they can make videos for you. I mean, I've actually had an avatar made for me. I can just type in stuff and it looks like me talking. So that some lawyers don't like to get in front of cameras. So now you get your avatar made, looks just like you, and it's sitting there doing all the work and you're still practicing law. That's going to be a game changer, in my opinion. So I think it's, I don't think TV's dead or ever is going to be dead completely. I just think there's going to be so many other ways digitally and, online marketing that's different. And it's just going to keep evolving. Social media, videos is like king right now.
Yeah.
Some lawyers know how to use them, some don't. But, it's when people see you all the time, then they need you, and then they see an ad, you're familiar with them. Familiarity is a big deal, right?
Absolutely.
Branding, even if you don't get them directly, just being out there in front of everybody all the time. And we've got some lawyers done very well with it. We got some lawyers that haven't figured it out yet. We're working with them. So I think it's completely different than when I started going on TV. Yeah, it was so much easier for me. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Even I said I made a lot of mistakes. Gosh, the competition was like, I mean, now somebody goes in the TV market, it takes them 12 to 18 months to even make a dent. I made a dent the first 60 days. I mean, I saw a complete, like I said, I went from 20 to 120 cases after about 2 months. But that you don't see that anymore. I mean, that just doesn't happen. Just when I did it, there was probably 300 or 400 million being spent on TV by PI lawyers. Now it's like $2 billion a year. So there's a big difference, right? I mean, you got 8 times more money being spent on TV than was spent, 20 years ago. So, I mean, you take car dealers, insurance, and lawyers are like the top 3 spenders on TV and radio right now.
Yeah. That's amazing. What is amazing to me as well, Ken, is that, I mean, you're a well-experienced lawyer and legal marketing expert, but you're on top of the cutting edges, the focus on AI, the internet, right? It's not just TV anymore.
No. I said TV was probably, I tell my members, it makes lawyers lazy because they think you can just throw more money on it and get more cases.
Right.
You know, and you can, but you get a diminishing return. What I'm saying is, put another $30,000 a month on TV instead of getting, your average cost is $3,000 now, it might go to $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So instead of getting 10 more cases, you might get 8 more cases for 30. Your cost per case goes up. Whereas you'd be smarter to go over there and do something where you can get cases for $2,000, or $1,500 a piece. So
yeah. No, this has been a fascinating discussion, Ken. I really appreciate your time. And, I just have to say, as a professional who works with attorneys, but with some other professions as well, I would say that the popular conception is that attorneys aren't really up on all the latest in marketing. But as you've demonstrated, you have to be if you want to be successful.
Yeah, you do. No, lawyers are usually behind on everything when it comes to marketing and management. They're always behind. I think doctors are too sometimes.
Yes.
And I think because they're so busy in their own practices, they just don't have time to keep abreast, to be honest with you.
And that's why they need folks like you and PILMA. Ken, how can our audience find you on the internet?
It's just like it's pilma.org, PILMMA.org, or info@pilma.org.
Great.
I think our number is 800-497-1890, I think. Pretty sure.
We'll make sure that we get the right number and the right email and the right website in the show notes. It's been really great, Ken. I really appreciated everything you shared today. Such great questions. When folks are considering hiring an attorney, do I even need a lawyer is the first question, right? And then if I do, why do I need you? That's the question that lawyers, especially personal injury attorneys, should be asking themselves to answer in their marketing, right?
Yep. That's the 2 key questions. You got to answer those. You got to. If you don't, you'll get some cases, but you're really dropping the ball.
Right. You're missing out on the opportunity. Yeah. Thanks again, Ken. It's been great to have you on Storylines Live in this episode. Folks, that's another episode. We thank you for being with us. Please visit us on the internet, wordwriteagency.com/storylines, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you again in our next episode.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christy Heiler hosts a fantastic podcast called Own It. Christy, tell us more about the show.
Own It is all about celebrating women and non-binary advertising agency owners. We talk about buying out of the Boys Club of Advertising because less than 1% of ad agencies are owned by women.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find the podcast at untilyouownit.com. We're also on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.